become GMG, genetically modified gremlins.
GMG is, oh man.
Dude, you have to say that well, we got this. Oh no, the gremlins come from China.
Oh no, dude. Oh no.
Oh no.
Welcome to Please Make This Movie, a podcast where we take a beloved movie and come up with a prequel or sequel. This week we're doing Gremlins, and I'm Zach.
I'm Storm.
And I'm Nick.
And I kind of preface this immediately before we hit record, but prepare to be disappointed because I don't like Gremlins. I watched this movie twice, and I watched about 3/4 of the new batch, and I don't know. It just doesn't click for me.
So I would, I think, be a little more outraged if I didn't. My girlfriend refuses to watch this movie. I had to force her to watch it because she hates it. I'm not sure if it's because they're creepy or if she thinks it's a bad movie, it doesn't play out the right way. But so I was prepared for one of the three of us to hate this movie. Why exactly do you think it's a bad movie? Or why doesn't it work?
I just think it doesn't have the nostalgia piece for me.
Okay.
I think that's why a lot of people still come back to Gremlins, is because it was like a childhood. Like it's weird that it seems like a kid's movie, but it's 100% not a kid's movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I feel like a lot of kids are shown it because it's like kind of a Christmas movie. And I just don't think I saw it a lot. I think I definitely had in my mind that I had seen it a few times, but watching it, a lot of the stuff seemed new to me. So maybe I just, through like osmosis of culture, had taken some of it in and hadn't actually seen it as many times as I thought.
For sure.
I don't know. I don't think the nostalgia is necessary to think it's a good movie, because I really didn't watch it as a kid. Like, maybe I did see pieces of it, but I watched it. I don't know, probably like college, which you could argue that's when you're a kid. But I think it's a solid, well structured, simply structured. It's very simple. There's nothing fancy to it, but it's got just real basic setups where it just starts off in this real racist Chinese store, and the dad's got all these gizmos, and they play into the movie, and Billy's the protagonist, right? I planned this a while ago. And he's got his love interest. We've got the the foreshadowing of the chicken and the water, and it's real simple. And I think what really makes, and maybe it's the same for Storm, but really makes me like it, where I would just normally be like, yeah, this is just kind of a dumb movie, is I just like the effects. I like the practical puppets. I think they're fun, they're hilarious, and anytime I see something like that on a movie, I just enjoy it, because I think I'm so dead by CGI.
Yeah, I do think it's enjoyable from like a practical effects and puppetry aspect of like, this is not... It's not a well-made movie. There's multiple times where you can see like the puppeteers or just something doesn't necessarily seem to have gone right. But I feel like it is good because of that, because it's almost campy in that way.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. It just, sometimes movies like that really have some staying power with me, and this, for whatever reason, is not one of those.
Interesting. So I like the movie a lot. I like it because of the practical effects, but I could totally see how it is dumb, or maybe like overly simple. There's something about it. It's like it fits into the little 80s movie box for me, that like Spielbergian, like E.T. I don't think Steven Spielberg directed The Goonies, but The Goonies fits into this as well. It's like this warm kind of like sit by a fire around Christmas sort of movie. And even though it has a couple scenes, like the Santa Claus scene. When I was a kid, we were allowed to watch Gremlins, but my parents would make us leave the room when that scene came on, because Santa Claus was a thing in our household. but even though it has that, the rest of it feels like a family movie. So I think the nostalgia is definitely a factor, but I don't know. I like those effects a lot, but I don't know. I don't know if I would say that it is a perfect or a. It's hard to say if it's like a well written movie. It's so goofy.
Yeah, and like it seems like the movie. I mean, we've talked about this before with some movies. It seems like the idea, like the nugget of idea, was there for the movie, and then they just were like, "Well, let's just run with it."
Oh yeah.
Because the plot, like outside of the rules of the Gremlins, there's not a
Uh-huh.
whole lot of plot of other than like they just want to continue to break the rules once they become Gremlins.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
entire beginning is barely any exposition because you don't really need exposition for this movie, and then just little foreshadowing in pieces, connecting you to what's going to happen with the Gremlins. Like you see their neighbor, who's that one actor whose name I can't remember, but he's been in a lot of stuff.
Judge Reinhold.
You know what I mean? Yeah, he's got the
Yeah.
bulldozer. You're just like, I wonder if the bulldozer's going to be
Yeah.
used, or I wonder what that's doing there, and like all these inventions, like.
The like borderline racist neighbor who hates foreigners.
Yeah. He's also, he's like a PTSD war veteran. So he's got the motivation for that hatred.
Yes, yes, I'm sure Roger Ebert would agree.
I think that this movie was critically panned by Ebert, if I'm not mistaken, when it came out. He did not have good things to say. If I'm wrong,
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
I think you're right. I think I
Nobody's
remember
looking
reading that. Said something like pretty horribly. Like this movie
Yeah,
is stupid as hell, like something
it,
like that.
yeah. So I do want to say, in Gremlins 1, it is like barely a concept. It's being held together by this really fun back half with all the puppets. But then Gremlins 2 like throws everything out the window and is kind of like a goof, almost like a total farce of a movie. Did you guys see?
Mm-hmm.
You said you saw Gremlins 2?
I watched enough of it to get what it was going for.
So that one, to me, it sets a weird tone to write a sequel, even because that movie does not take itself seriously. Where I would say Gremlins, for the most part, it's like a movie. It's trying to say like this is a real world, and in the end, there's going to be a happy ending. And Gremlins 2 was like Rocky Horror Picture Show or something, or like
Mm-hmm.
Little Shop
I
of
would almost
Horrors.
compare it to like the Sharknado, if you're familiar with
Yeah.
the
Okay.
first,
Yeah.
the first Sharknado was like they were going for it, and you can tell they thought they were making a good movie, and then in all
Mhm.
those stupid sequels, they're like, we're in on the joke now. But like the first time they weren't, and that's what made Sharknado good. So I feel like that's kind of the my take, at least, on the second Gremlins.
I would argue that the property of Gremlins and Mogwai has a little bit more charm than the Sharknado, and that's why it works for me. Where something like that, I don't even think I would. I don't think I would be able to sit down and watch one of those.
Yeah, going back to I looked up the Roger Ebert review. I think I was wrong. I think he was like, yeah, it's like an okay cliche monster movie. It's not great. Here's like the last line. It's like at the level of pop movie going, it's sophisticated, witty B movie in which the monsters are devouring not only the defenseless town but decades of defenseless cliches. But don't go if you
Ooh,
still believe in Santa Claus.
boom, nice. Yeah, that's a good warning.
My favorite scene from this is Mrs. Deagle just getting blasted out of the window. Like
Oh my god.
I don't think there is a better visual in any movie I've seen than this like horrible old lady in her like easy chair getting like flung out as a second story window, like far, like way farther
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
than the
dude,
Kim from Pop.
they make you try to hate her so hard. Like she's just
Yeah.
like a fucking evil person. Like what does she do? She like threatens to murder his dog.
Right away.
Just like denying people rent. Like if it was
Mhm.
COVID, she'd have a blast kicking people out and evicted them. Like in the
I wrote
Gremlin
that down
world.
as one of the themes of like the Gremlins franchise is just like corporate assholes. Because
Yeah.
Mrs. Deagle is all about like her husband was this crooked real estate guy, and she is all about not like ripping people off, but not letting anybody get away with anything. At the very beginning of that movie, there's somebody like begging for her to like wait a little bit on rent, and she in front of the woman's children like basically calls her a deadbeat. And then Judge Reinhold is just the worst. He's just like, I'm gonna be the manager of this bank someday. It's like, you suck, dude. And then in the new batch, there's Clamp, which is just obviously supposed to be Donald Trump, I think.
Yep. Yeah. And the Clamp. I guess so. That gets kind of confusing because, well, obviously the message there is corporate, anti-corporate greed. But like, I don't know, Billy. Billy's kind of a simple guy, and it almost like he doesn't try very hard for these bad things to not happen, if that makes sense. So it gets it. That's where it becomes like full satire for me in the second one, where it's like this guy is kind of a dope, and even though he's caught up in this, he's kind of bringing it on himself. Like he's not doing enough. Well, I get okay. So you said you only saw half of the second one.
I saw up until they like set the studio on fire.
Okay. Did you see the part with Hulk Hogan?
I don't know.
So that movie has a meta moment where it all of a sudden you're in a movie theater where the Gremlins are messing with the projector, and then Hulk Hogan stands up in the audience and is like, "Hey, you Gremlins, this is the Hulkster, and you better get out of there so we can keep watching this movie." And then he like winks in the camera. It's like, "All right, folks, let's get back to the show," or something like that. And it's absurd.
Yeah,
it's insane.
I'm pretty sure I did not see that.
Oh man, I mean I've seen Gremlins too. I mean I only rewatched the first one for this.
Okay.
But I know it's dumb in a good way, from what I recall.
It's a really fun movie. I like it a lot in that regard, but I almost didn't want to recommend that we watch it or even include it in the idea of coming up with a sequel, specifically because the tone changes so much into just absolute farce.
So let's go ahead and talk about like some of the hallmarks then of the Gremlins, either just the Gremlins or I kind of got some themes that seem to be overarching from the Gremlins franchise that we can go ahead and start with. So the first was this phrase of Gremlins in the machine that was like a constant showing of how being like technology dependent isn't good because they're sabotaging like machinery or technology and things are going wrong. And we see that time and time again in like various forms in both movies. With Mr. Futterman constantly talking about how foreigners are bad or can't be trusted, and it's like this fear of like the outsider, and I think that carries over too to like the whole mysticism of the Chinatown shop guy, and how the mogwai and everything work. I would argue, as have come up in multiple movies, that capitalism is bad is a theme. I called it corporate assholes because we have characters like Mrs. Deagle, Judge Reinhold, and Clamp that are all just like showing how these more or less financially successful people are real terrible, and the people who are not financially successful are the like morally good. And then just the idea that no one appreciates creativity because his dad Randall is kind of looked down upon because of his inventions that are shit. Like we can talk more about that in a bit. Billy's drawings aren't really appreciated in the first one, and then his architecture, he's like going off book almost, and they don't really appreciate that. So like creativity is just really suppressed in all the movies, it seems like. So those are like the overarching themes I saw, if we want to start with any of that.
Damn, that is I mean, I think including all of those kind of encapsulates the whole feeling. Aside from that, it's you start with one mogwai, you get some evil mogwai that butt off of him, they turn into gremlins, they cause mayhem. That's all you need.
Yep, that's very important
as well. And it seems like the way of breaking the rules is always like not on purpose, but it is like an oversight. It's not necessarily on accident either. It's just like an oopsie.
Yeah, I have some theories about the rules, but I want to include those in my pitch. Because you're right, it is kind of like an oopsies, but it's like a moment of irresponsibility on
Yeah.
the part of like a would be caretaker.
Yeah, I mean, you can't eat after midnight in your time zone.
Yeah, that specifically, yeah, that one is. The second movie has a hilarious joke about that. That I won't spoil. If you haven't seen it, I recommend watching the movies, even though we don't all agree on whether or not they're good. They're worth checking out.
And then I think the only other like important Billy, I think, needs to be a character in some way, even if it's
Okay.
not directly Billy. It needs to
Yeah.
be some sort of like lovable hero who's Billy's not even really the hero of the movie though. He's just like a guy because in the end it's Gizmo that's the real
Yeah.
hero, right?
Oh yeah.
And I would argue that like Kate is maybe more heroic even than Billy at times because he's just kind of like a dude that's there, um,
Yeah,
and
Billy
just
a
happens to
little
be
bit.
involved in it.
He kind of reminds me of Philip J. Fry from Futurama. He's not as
Okay.
quite of an idiot, but he's just there's like this vapid airheadedness about him.
Yeah,
Where
Yeah,
he
but no one really points it out. It's just kind of, evident in who
yeah.
he is. Like no one. It's not like people make fun of him for being an idiot, like in Futurama.
No, yeah,
yeah, he's just like a medium person. Like he is like not necessarily good or bad, not necessarily smart or dumb. Like he's just medium.
He's a vessel for us to put ourselves into
He's
because he's
not. Yeah,
empty
he's
and
like
generic.
even the
yeah,
actor. Yeah, he's like the most generic. Even the actor isn't like the most attractive person, but also isn't ugly. He's just like a guy.
yeah, yeah. He looks to me. This is a weird reference, but there were the way that Spider-Man Peter Parker was drawn in comics in like the '80s. I feel like that dude Zach Galligan looks exactly like that. There's something about his face, and Peter Parker is like a the ultimate everyman or average guy. So that there definitely is something there. The fact that we're saying like, oh, he's not anything is probably very intentional on the part of the casting directors.
Which, if we want to get into it, I know we talked about this through text a while ago when we were first throwing around the idea of recording this. That the original movie was not intended to be as old of a character for Billy. It was supposed to be a child, and that's why Corey Feldman is his friend, who is like 10 years younger than him.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. There's no reference really. If they just said like, oh, it's his cousin or his nephew, or like he used to teach him soccer or something like that, it would make it a little less weird. But there's nothing. So I feel like everyone watching that movie has that moment where they're like, wait, who is this kid? What is the relationship between Billy and Corey Feldman?
I think that's a modern viewing. I don't know. I feel like maybe it was a little less weird to hang out with an older kid in your neighborhood, but
But
back in the day that it is
Billy
now.
wasn't an
Was it?
older kid. He was a full-on adult. He
Yeah,
had
he
a
works at
job
the
at a
bank.
bank.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah, he's like
I forgot
23.
about that. You know, all kids need role models. All right, I don't know.
He's kind of a good role model. He works at the bank, but but I mean, Corey Feldman's the one that creates the other mogwai by just kind of being a little irresponsible, shitty
Yeah,
kid.
drop in the water.
Yeah, he drops the water on him. And then he doesn't give a shit. He's immediately reading the comic book with the 3D glasses. It's like, oh yeah, whatever. I'm not interested anymore.
When he immediately like Corey Feldman's character just like pops in and out of the movie,
Yeah.
like has nothing to push the plot along at any point, and then he just vanishes. I think
Yeah, it would
at
make
one point.
sense that there were rewrites that maybe they were both kids and the kids all were part of the ending. Um, but when they aged Billy up and suddenly his love interest in him are more important than him and his friend,
Mhm.
especially since his friend is still 13 years old.
Yeah,
So Corey Feldman gets phased out in that way.
Yeah.
I feel like we're gonna say it when we get to casting, but I feel like if you just put all the Stranger Things kids in this
Oh,
movie, it would work.
You're not wrong. That would be one
I
way to
mean,
do it for
season
sure.
2 of Stranger Things did have a lovable little creature
Hmm.
uh, that turned into a big spooky monster.
Yeah, I
So
forgot about that. Oh, do we? Is being set around Christmas an important part of Gremlins? Do you guys think?
I, I don't know. So I approach Gremlins similar to, so this might be a controversial thing to say, similar to like Die Hard, where it's not necessarily a
Okay.
Christmas movie.
Yeah.
It's a movie set at Christmas, so you might watch it more often then. But I don't think it necessarily has Christmas themes like some of the movies we've talked about with like Elf and Home Alone. Not even Home Alone, really. Elf, that's like obviously a Christmas movie. The Grinch, which is
Hmm.
obviously a Christmas movie. It's just set at Christmas, and I don't think that's necessary, other than if we want to do anything with the like gags of murdering Santa. Or
I mean, I like the idea of Gremlins being a Christmas movie solely because it tells kids that Santa Claus isn't real.
Oh my
It's a
god.
weird thing for family. I think that's kind of a funny thing to label a Christmas movie. I don't know. I call it a Christmas movie, but I guess it really doesn't matter too much.
It's almost an anti-Christmas movie in that way. But the second one has absolutely nothing to do with Christmas. So, as cool visually as it is, I guess it already has established that it doesn't need to be uh, tied to Christmas to still be a thing. One thing I want to say before we do pitches or anything, the town. For some reason, when we first said we were going to do Gremlins, I started looking up all sorts of stuff and I found myself on this website that tells you where things are filmed. And Gremlins, the entirety of the first Gremlins movie is filmed on a studio backlot. It's all fake. And while watching it, I kind of realized for the first time what a movie that is completely fake looks like what the difference between walking around in a real town and walking around in a set town is, where everything looks like it's on stage almost. And I don't know, it
Mhm.
just kind of blew my mind because I never would have thought that if I hadn't looked that up. I don't know if those types of things are obvious to you guys, but I was shocked.
I think there is. I don't know if it was you or if it was something completely different, but isn't it the town, the same set from Back to the Future, just like dressed up differently?
The town square that they go through,
Yeah,
and it's like the opening shot is very clearly the Hill Valley town square.
yeah. I think just there is a like shallowness to where there's not like a lot of depth. Uh, if that means anything, when they are shooting scenes in the town, there's just like nothing beyond um, the like you can almost tell
Yeah,
that
it's
there's
people
just
walking in and
nothing.
out of the edges
Yeah,
of the frame as opposed to
yeah,
a real city or what have you. For me, there's something about the lighting where all of a sudden it's like that looks like theater more than being, I guess, in a real town, which they do in movies anyways. But I don't know. I just thought I found that interesting, and I wanted to bring it up.
okay. So we have just some of those themes I talked about, the general rules of the Gremlins. It doesn't necessarily have to be set at Christmas time. We do need a Billy-esque character. Anything else that seems like a touchstone of the movie Gremlins?
Gizmo, the character,
Okay.
um, but I don't know. Yeah, that's probably it.
And then I think there needs to be like a bad gremlin, right?
Oh
There
yeah.
needs to
Yeah.
be a leader of the gremlins um, that usually has some sort of mohawk to show that he is a rebel.
Yeah, or something
Sorry.
distinct. Yeah, I have an
Yeah,
idea about that, that I'll talk about in my pitch. But I think the lore is definitely due to be expanded upon a little bit. Like we are owed that as an audience if it's a sequel, which the actual sequel doesn't really do. It just ups the ante in stupidness and explains less.
All right. Well, as far as pitches go, I don't know if you guys care if I start. Mine's kind of a soft reboot, so there's not a crazy
Oh,
lot of, I don't know, not a lot of changes, just little different themes and little different like touches here and there. I really didn't do anything too crazy because I don't know. I kind of thought. I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and start talking. I
yeah,
figure.
go for it.
I don't know. I just felt like this would be a movie where like pretty much the same plot or lack thereof, whatever you want to say about it, kind of happens. Because I don't know, I feel like, I mean, there's a lot of places to go with Gremlins. You could definitely, like as you said, expand on the mythos of it, which you could still kind of do in a soft reboot. But I don't know. It just felt right to me. It just felt right. I just want to switch up the themes because, as you were talking about, there's a lot of corporate, anti-corporate messaging in the movies, um, and I kind of switched that focus to be more of like an anti-blue collar sort of messaging.
Oh.
So it starts out with Billy, same character, recasted, say young kid. It's like as if Billy, is just um, coming home from college during Christmas. I said it during Christmas. And he actually bought a mogwai from a Chinese pet store in Chinatown in Chicago, where he goes to school. Um, he's having a troubled relationship with his parents, and he thinks this is kind of a gift. His parents are kind of quirky, kind of weird. Like one of them owns like maybe like a bakery or something that would be clearly a great thing for a gremlin to screw up later in the film. And the other parent's like an independent research scientist who has a lab in the basement. Like I know that's kind of was already done in Gremlins too, but I think you can do a lot with that. So he's kind of has a trouble relationship with him, and the reason is because his parents are like super hard on him to go to college. Like they force him to get like some business degree so he can be successful. But Billy's into something. It could be anything, but I think welding is a good choice. Can pay well. He's super proud of it. It's something he likes working with his hands, but as his parents think like he's just not going to make any money, and that's kind of where their conflict lies. Like he goes home, they have an argument about it. Billy also has a pet dog. It's a giant mastiff. I think it's nice to switch things up. Get a bigger dog that can mess up some gremlins and actually like
Nice.
play a bigger role. And of course, still have a love interest. I named a girl like he has an old high school crush, Kira, who is actually following her dreams of taking lessons of becoming a pilot, which hopefully come into play later. Anyway, I like literally it was just me setting up weird ways, like how I saw the first movie, weird ways to involve crazy antics. Yeah. And I didn't plan them out. I kind of just set them up. But like, I don't know, if there's any like, I wanted some leeway for us to kind of, if we decided to go with this, which I mean, it's not that interesting, so probably not. But I like the idea that she's a pilot, and not that they have to fly to escape, but they use the plane to solve some problem or just like mow down gremlins, or like they try to escape but it crashes because literally a gremlin is someone that like sabotages planes. So I think that'd be a nice little tie-in. And inside the town, instead of like an evil landlady or like other neighbors that kind of suck that the gremlins kind of punish, which it seemed like there was kind of a lot of punishing going on with the gremlins. Like there was a lot of satisfactory like gremlin destruction in there. People that deserved it, also innocent, but there is a sort of old high school bully named Kyle who like works for a lawn care company. And I think I didn't think of this before, but we can, we were talking anti-corporate, anti-technology. We can kind of put, I like the idea of putting maybe like social media in there. I know it's kind of cliche, especially with, that Netflix documentary that came out. Remind me what that was called. It was like Network or something. What was it called?
Oh, I do not remember.
Yeah, you guys, we all watched
I know
it,
what
right?
you're talking about. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the one that talks about how social media is ruining our lives. So that's kind of a thing. So I like the idea of him kind of getting screwed with on these social media apps, and then also the gremlins causing some mayhem on the social media apps. Because I mean, like we have Russian hacking into the election, messing with like both political spectrums. Like I think it'd be fun to have like gremlins, eventually. Like creating like he has a crush on Kira, but maybe he like creates like a fake dating profile, or like they find there's like tech gremlin that hacks into profiles and like screws with Billy, and like they roleplay as Kira, or like there could be a million different things you could do with that. But he has an actual real life bully that kind of messes with him. Eventually, yeah, his parents have no interest in Gizmo. They actually are like, dude, why are you buying this stuff? You're supposed to be studying, going to school. We don't have any interest in this quirky animal. So he ends up having to take care of it. Let's see. So he gets kind of mad at his parents, leaves on Christmas Day. Hold on. I typed this a long time ago in my notes, and I really don't. What? Sorry, guys. I should have reread this. I wrote this like 2 weeks ago, and I had it all in my head, so I wasn't expecting to have to read these. So, oh man, I have something about Gizmo falling in a toilet.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna skip that and then go back into maybe this comes in later. So yeah, he kind of goes to Kira's on his way out of his house, going to Kira's place. So I think Kyle steals Gizmo from Billy and takes him back to his place where, all right, there we go. Kyle drops him in the toilet and he multiplies. There we go. That makes sense. Multiplies. And, it's this Kyle dude kind of messing like, oh, what's going on here? And so, long story short, they multiply, kill Kyle. They find out that, Kyle's bullying him over social media, showing him that he has Gizmo, kind of like what's his name from Toy Story?
Sid.
What's his name?
Is it Sid?
Sid. I wanted to say Zed, but yeah, it's Sid.
God.
Like a Sid from Toy, kind of messing with him, like screw him. Kyle's a dick. His name's Kyle. Classic bully name. Also my brother's name. So I like the main evil Gremlins to be. I don't know. I wanted to switch it up, not just a stripe, but have like one that they refer to as horns and ears. Like one has kind of like these big wicked bull horns, and this other one has like giant goofy ears. Like one's super like serious, kind of like the stripes in the first movie, and the other one's kind of like goobery. And they eventually kill Kyle and start multiplying like crazy. So they go there, they rescue Gizmo, but they realize all these eggs have hatched, and it culminates. Long story short, we're going to have a lot of scenes with destruction. Maybe they try to escape the town because they think it's overrun with a plane. Gremlin crashes it. The Gremlins somehow break into their parents' house and screw up with their little science lab and like have all these crazy wacky things with cakes and muffins. And then, however, when his parents kind of get caught, and the Gremlins maybe can be posting stuff on the webs and showing like, oh, they have like these, along with their destruction in town, they're kind of messing with Billy's parents. He can break in by building like a Mad Max car through his welding skills, and he busts through his house, saves his parents, and they come out. And then honestly, I don't know how they save the day, but more than likely something related to the sunlight and day coming and getting them all outside through some sort of.
I do like a montage scene of just Billy welding together a car, and you're not really sure what he's doing until it shows just this tank that he's built, basically.
You cut out there a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, what did you say? He was building what?
Like a montage of just Billy welding. And we don't really know what he's doing, and then it shows the finished, like just a tank that he's kind of welded together. And like, whoa, he is talented at weld. Like, we never see him weld until that point, and you're just like, oh, well, maybe he is good.
I like the idea of Billy having like a skill that is coveted, and could take him places, as opposed to being like this, like I guess kind of like vapid daydreamer at the bank.
Yeah, I know he didn't. I don't know. He didn't really like his job, but that never really goes anywhere.
It was like he was like an artist, but they don't really explore that beyond just you see him doing drawings for a second. It's kind of like discouraging to the idea of being like an artist stuck in the corporate hellhole or what have you. But I don't know. I like a lot of things that you said, Nick. I was typing some stuff up.
I like the social media. Like,
yeah, definitely.
I think that's an interesting tie-in.
Yeah,
it offers a lot.
as I don't want to get too much into this, but they could do something as Storm and I had a little Facebook group where a friend and I pretty much kicked someone out of the group and recreated another group with fake profiles of everyone else, and then added a fake profile of the guy we kicked out into the real group, and then messed with everybody. And I think maybe that would hard to translate on screen, but it was really funny in real life. So I don't know.
I think it depending on how you execute something like that, that's a really well. First of all, what you just described, Nick, is one of the craziest bamboozlements of my lifetime. That shit blew my mind when I found out what was going on. Yeah, that you can manipulate social media in such a way that you literally could copy all of the posts in a group with 20 people for a month with fake profiles, then just drop one of the real members into it and start messing with them subtly in that way. It was no problem. You guys did it just like for fun, so people could easily utilize that for evil.
Oh yeah.
And we've known that the whole time because this was like 5 years ago that happened.
Yeah, and then you could be like some council person that in the town we don't like a Mrs. Deagle or whatever, and ruin their reputation or like cause something to actually happen in the real world. I don't know. That's just an idea.
But I mean, Gremlins doing that to cause actual destruction is pretty hilarious. Just to like stow hatred amongst people online.
And I think a hacker gremlin, just that visual of a gremlin, like a cyberpunk looking gremlin behind a computer.
Oh yeah, that.
Yeah, exactly.
Just hearing that sound, I get an image in my head of this person.
Great Foley work.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've got a super loud keyboard. So.
I'm going to go ahead and go next because, Storm, I'm sure you have way more of a pitch than I do.
I don't, but that's okay.
So mine was going to be a period piece kind of set in the 90s, just very 90s. I don't know that I still like that with the social media aspect, but that's what I have. So Billy and Kate were once married. They're now split. Billy rarely sees his kid, who is about a teenager. He has just a bad relationship with him or her. I cast a male or female for that part. Randall, his father, had a successful invention. It was inspired. So this is actually a sequel to the first Gremlins. Randall had a successful invention inspired by the responsibility of taking care of the mogwai. He's actually the one that came up with the idea of Tamagotchis, the little digital pets that you have to take care of. And that's kind of what the Peltzer business just kind of blew up on. But now it is years later, and the Peltzer business is grasping for relevance. They don't have the follow-up to Tamagotchis, and Tamagotchis are falling out of style. Randall... Billy's father brings back a mogwai from a business trip to Asia. Billy and Kate are both very unhappy about that because they obviously lived through the events of the first movie and they know how it's going to lead to a problem. He brought it back as a present to his grandson or granddaughter. There's an evil business partner of Peltzer Corporation. He sees the mogwai and he thinks, this is the next step. We have Tamagotchis. We have these digital pets. Now we create these real pets that you take care of that are not they're unique. They're not a normal pet. And so he steals the mogwai one night and tries to clone it, resulting in multiple gremlins. These gremlins are all still caged at this point in the movie. This evil business partner goes to ship all of these gremlins off to various labs across the country to test them, and that's where our movie with Billy and his child must work. They have to keep these gremlins from shipping out at this airport because if they do not, then the gremlins become international, and that is going to be a huge problem. So about half of our movie is set at an airport, and I think that just offers a lot of different things the Gremlins could cause to go wrong. We could have restaurants, gift shops, whatever. And that's kind of all that I had for a pitch.
Nice. Well, I love the last little bit you mentioned there of Gremlins in an airport and the threat of Gremlins. Gremlins International is what I wrote down in my notes of them going worldwide, because that is kind of where I came at this whole thing from in my pitch. So I don't know. I think that's them being in an airport and the threat being like, if they get on this plane, the plane takes off, it's over. There's no way to contain this.
Mhm.
I think that's such a good like act 3. And Nick, you had in yours that Billy's or our protagonist's girlfriend, Kira, I believe you said, was a pilot. So that, I mean, that could, if we do some collaborative efforts on the actual pitch, that goes hand in hand right there.
Yeah, I like that. If we decide to do Gremlins Worldwide, which sounds like some sort of company,
Yeah.
if we do Gremlins Worldwide, I think like I'd like the idea of someone figuring out how to breed like a mogwai who or a gremlin who isn't sensitive to sun or like light.
Interesting.
Like so, like that would make it like actually really dangerous.
Wasn't that in Gremlins 2? I believe there's a part because they break into like the L&D lab at Clamp Tower with Christopher Lee, and I have a theory that that whole scene is like a weird homage to Reanimator. But while they're in there, they just start injecting stuff that's being worked on in this lab, and one of them I think is like a skin, like a sunblock, but that gremlin gets killed. So they're like 50% of the way there. So it would be one, it would be a nice homage to Gremlins 2. But 2, it's like a logical next step, like the Urukai of Gremlins that can go out in the sunlight.
Yeah, and like the business could be like, we can't have these dying at sunlight. Kids are forgetful. They'll, we gotta,
Oh, like the business is they're endorsing the idea, like they support turning your mogwai into gremlins.
Yeah, why not?
Maybe they don't support that. We'll get into it.
Maybe, yeah, it could be also before they turn into gremlins, because you're not supposed the mogwai don't like sun as well, right?
No, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. They get hurt, but they don't. I don't know.
The logic is whack.
Yeah, I would like to expand upon this further.
In the businesses, sorry, one more thing. The corporation wouldn't want anybody to have their mogwai turn into gremlins or even multiply their mogwai, because then that would hurt their business.
Yes.
Because if somebody can literally just produce them, then they no longer have to buy them. So they would want to keep that secret.
Yes. So if they genetically modified them, you would think that they would take out some of those elements to make them like a hot commodity that you can only get from the Gremlins Worldwide, which is hilarious. Nice. Well, yeah, I don't know. I like that idea a lot. The airport, the idea of gremlins going international, and the idea of genetically modified gremlins being sold by a corporation.
And if we're making it in 2020, you have to refer to it as like a pandemic or some sort of, because like that's, I mean, I think of 12 Monkeys, where like the end scene is like them go to the airport and, spreading it, or like they're trying to prevent that from happening. The gremlins are a symbol for the coronavirus, I think.
Oh,
you call them GMG, genetically modified gremlins.
GMG is, oh man,
dude, you have to say that well, we got this. Oh no, the gremlins come from China.
Oh no, dude. Oh no.
Oh no.
Wow.
Can we do a bad one?
Wow. It's writing itself. I mean, the historical parallels are there. I mean, we can't ignore them.
No, they came natural. No, they were made in a lab.
Oh man. So some of these ideas, I'm going to be honest, this is kind of what I had come up with. So this is very interesting. My pitch is called Gremlins World Tour, which was a riff on the idea of Trolls World Tour. But all it was. So the first thing I have to say is my entire pitch was based on the idea that grown-up Pete, who's played by Corey Feldman, would be played by Shia LaBeouf, because I always thought Shia LaBeouf felt like the reason he made it big and was so... He is a nostalgia to him. He is reminiscent of 80s kids, specifically Corey Feldman. So I thought it was a natural thing. And then right after I came up with that, I feel like it was like the day of, I looked online and Shia LaBeouf is being sued for serial abuse and is apparently a huge scumbag. So we will not be casting him in the movie,
So
but
like
It's
Corey
going to be his
Feldman.
big comeback, though.
it will not. Gremlins cannot be his comeback. It would, I mean, logically it would not be, but I do think he would fit the vibe of what I was thinking, which is like an insanely over the top, like espionage type of movie that is almost like farcical with the Gremlin stuff, but everything else is very tense and serious. So my opening is like a montage of like a Christmas, like a tree and presents and a fireplace and but all extreme close-ups with the Gremlin music. The like the theme song from the first one, that kind of lullaby, and then intercut with scenes that are set in a basement laboratory and all kind of have reverb on the dialogue, so it feels like a memory or something. That so it's a hard cut between this beautiful lullaby and then this battle happening in a laboratory. And there's this scientist who's holding on to Gizmo and he's got like a water balloon in his hand. And there's Billy who's bleeding and he's got maybe like a bullet wound. And I was thinking that Phoebe Cates, Billy's wife, is literally dead on the floor. Like one of the cuts in the montage, you see her getting shot. And the scientist is like, I'm going to do it, Peltzer. I'm going to do it. You can't hold this thing back. This arms race is international at this point. We need these mogwai. We need them. You're not going to threaten national security by keeping it all, like keeping it a secret, keeping it to yourself. And Billy's like, he's trying to plead with this man that, like, I've seen this 2 times in my life. This can't go global. And the guy, he lifts the balloon, and Billy sees that there's a gas line cut, and he lights a match, and he blows his house to shit. So that's the opening. And then it's like Gremlins World Tour. And I like the idea. This is so stupid, but of Gremlins in like a Santa sleigh, like a Grinch style Santa sleigh, throwing other Gremlins off of it to cause mayhem. But the main one being dressed in a Santa costume. And that has nothing to do with my pitch. I just think that's a fun idea and image for like a poster. But so that's the intro. Then we cut to scenes with the president, who of course would be Daniel Clamp from Gremlins 2 to parallel the Trump thing. And so Red Letter Media has pitched Gremlins 3, and it is like Gremlins in the White House. So I try to avoid that as much as possible. But it's like he's making calls, and it turns out everyone around the world has like mogwai, like secret mogwai, that's basically like the nuclear bomb. And they're waiting. They haven't turned them into Gremlins. They're keeping them under strict conditions so they won't change. But what they don't realize is that it's inevitable. So it's like a recent thing. Even though the scientist killed Billy, it didn't matter. Like Gremlins were already global, or Mogwai were, and this is kind of an inevitability. That's kind of the theme of the whole thing, is this inevitability of Gremlins taking over the world and causing basically a Gremlins apocalypse. But aside from that, I have one setup, which was the character Pete, the kind of in the first act of the movie. There's the Peltzer mansion or house or whatever. It's ruins. It's been blown up. It's blocked off by the fire department and the police. And it's kind of getting late. And this guy shows up, and he's in a trench coat, and he's like smoking a cigarette or something. He's a PI, and he goes up to one of the cops and is like, "Hey, I knew these people. Can I take a look around?" And it's Pete from the first movie. Originally, I had him played by Shia LaBeouf, so it'd be this like iconography to him almost, but I think you could change it to another actor and have a similar effect. But he's walking around, and he's sad because Billy's wife, who I can never remember her name, is it Kate? Yeah, Kate. They're dead. And he hears the lullaby again, and it's Gizmo, but he's buried under rubble. So Pete like digs him out, and he takes him, and him and Gizmo get involved in this situation where they know that mogwai are going to be used to basically start World War III or the end of the world, and they're traveling around in this high-stakes espionage-esque, maybe like James Bond kind of situation, to get everyone to kill their mogwai, or cause them to not turn into gremlins so the world doesn't end. And that's pretty much it. So it's not so much of a plot pitch as it is just like a concept, but I want the idea to be established through the movie that the Gremlins, the rules never mattered. They weren't real. they are weak to sunlight, but there's only one mogwai, and it's good inherently as long as the caretaker of the mogwai doesn't dump water on it or expose it to sunlight. Dumping water on it will create these clones, but the clones all live by one rule, which is to torment the creator, the original gremlin. I'm sorry, the original mogwai, who's always good, and the clones are always bad. And once you have them, the food thing is impossible. So I kind of am going off the idea that once you have the evil clones or Bud's offspring, they're always going to turn into gremlins, and the rules are kind of arbitrary at that point. And that's it.
Alrighty, I want to combine both of your guys'. Screw mine.
I like the pilot, the character establishment of the pilot.
Well, we can have
I like that she wants to be a pilot, and she's like a flight attendant who doesn't get taken seriously as a pilot,
which gives us
how we get to the airport.
Yeah, well, so I think the airport. So we can have Zach's movie, but the climax be like the second act where they try to stop the shipment of. So hear me out. So first off, we've got corporate. We still got the corporation. We can even still have that the whole Neopets. That's like this corporation's kind of like, oh yeah, like, oh, we got these fucking things, like we're gonna try to make money off of them. But what you find out is that they're actually getting like DARPA, like defense funding, from the military, who is actually the real issue is that they're setting up these like sleeper cell gremlins all across the world from Storm's idea. So initially, I don't remember what Zach, in your pitch, what was Billy doing? I don't know. Maybe he could still be working for that company. I don't know. Or maybe it's a new kid. Who knows? I think we should still have. I like the idea. So, all right, real quick, who are we gonna have as the protagonist before I keep going with this? Like, we're gonna have just a Billy, in what setting? I like a modern.
I had a version of like Billy's son or daughter, who is just like a more heroic Billy, and like Billy's still there, but the child is the one that is like doing everything.
All right, I think Pete might be.
I do like that too.
Simple, because then we can have him. He actually works for this company. Maybe it's not related to clamps necessarily, but he works for that, and he's got his own girlfriend, just kind of replicating the Billy and whatever Kate, the relationship from the first movie. And he works there, and he kind of is starting to uncover this plot of like, oh, wait a minute, like they're using these gremlins, and he's like trying to warn everybody, and then he finds out.
What if, in an homage to the original, we have a grown-up Pete who is best friends with the child of Billy and Kate, who is still a child. And so we still have that weird adult teenager relationship. And they're like, I don't know why they would be together at an airport, but I don't know.
I mean, we could probably work that in. So long story short, so I can finish up my suggestion.
Yeah, go ahead.
They try to stop it at the airport. It fails. Then it goes out, and then, well, I don't know how they stop it once it goes out from the airport.
I don't think they need to stop it.
They're trying to stop it at the airport, but it doesn't matter because the realization comes that it's already widespread because there is all of these like sleeper cell gremlins that are like government ran to.
Do you guys know the movie Terminator 3? Where at the end of the movie, they go to a bunker. The whole movie is about getting to a bunker. Where the Terminator's like, we got to get here so we could save John Connor. But you get there, and then in the end, the nuclear holocaust happens. Like, all the bombs get launched, and it was a secret mission just to get him there so he would survive, not prevent the end of the world. It's like the rug gets pulled out from underneath you as the audience. I like the idea of that happening in this Gremlins movie, where the entire idea is
trying to do with Billy's child.
But in the end, it's like, oh no, like the world is is totally screwed. And there was no stopping it, no matter what we did in this movie, even though it was fun Gremlins antics.
Yeah, and we got them GMGs, so they're kind of hard to fight.
And I do like the idea of one of my ideas for my original pitch that I just couldn't make work was Gremlins getting nuclear codes and causing like a gremlin in the machine, which would lead but if a gremlin were to get access as like a hacker to nuclear codes, then we could really have something. So here's the problem with us setting in an airport. Are we going to set it in the 90s or is it going to be set in modern day?
That's a good point, and it would complicate things significantly.
Yes.
If it's now.
If it's set in modern day, we have a lot more security at the airport. That was also my reasoning for setting it in the 90s is there was not airport security. It was just like, do whatever.
I like the idea of Gremlins taking over the TSA.
And yeah, just a gremlin scanning somebody, like laughing at people's x-rays.
There's also got to be a bad gremlin that's kind of, I don't know, how do we work in like, because we don't have that trope of like, all right, there's bad gremlins and they're running wild, because this is all human controlled pretty much.
Yeah.
Up to this point.
Well, what if, I don't know. I mean,
let's have the bad gremlin being the one that is trying to get gremlins like spread out on planes, and that's what they stop. But then they find out there is this bigger, like that is the bad gremlin for this airplane situation. But then there's this whole other thing that they didn't even know about.
So I like that a lot, that there's like this main mission of there's a gremlin who's I always thought it was like the first one that buds off of Gizmo is the leader and has a distinct thing. So that one they're chasing around because they know he has this plan to get on the plane. But the whole time they're kind of in touch with, I do want to bring Daniel Clamp into it from Gremlins 2. In that movie, there was a smart gremlin. There was a gremlin that injected itself with like increased brain functionality, something. And it became highly intelligent, could communicate. Like the idea of maybe Daniel Clamp as the president has like evolved into a gremlin or something. There's secretly this smart gremlin behind the scenes orchestrating this international GMG coup to bring down, human society, to usher in the new era of gremlins. And we didn't even really know about it. It's just kind of in the background. Maybe they just call Clamp at one point in the movie and you hear his voice. And then when we finally see him in the end, he's like 50% gremlin.
So like
that's pretty crazy.
He has been taking like gremlin DNA and modifying himself to become a better version of a human being, but is this gremlin human hybrid.
Yeah, or maybe he doesn't even want to be a human because he's obsessed with this idea of the era of gremlins.
So he's like that weird person that you always see in the tattoo stuff that's like becoming a cat.
Yeah.
Like but gremlin.
But gremlin, and it's real. He's really transforming. Like The Fly. Like he's like 50% of the way through the movie The Fly. And honestly, Jeff Goldblum would be a good recasting of Clamp. It's just a brief cameo.
So, do we need to flesh out this idea more? Like how?
I don't even know.
I think we do. So we have our main character. Are we going to have the scene where Billy dies at the beginning?
I don't think they have to die necessarily, but I do like that intro with the explosion that sets up the idea that there's like I wanted that scientist at the beginning.
What if we have the explosion, we have like that whole thing, and it is assumed that Billy is dead, and we could maybe have Billy come in to say, like, we see the whole back and forth, we see the explosion, we see the house in ruins, we don't ever really find, like, the coroner or whoever's at the house can say something about like the bodies were vaporized or something. We can't find any bodies in that, or you can, and then Billy like comes in and saves the day.
That's great. Yeah, maybe he's even like in a SWAT team uniform or something, so he has a moment where he reveals his face. So I'm thinking about like The Dark Knight when Jim Gordon fakes his death.
Well, I like the idea of revealing him, like, because we need a positive. Maybe we don't need a positive ending, but like they find out the world's screwed. The Gremlins are the sleeper GMGs everywhere, and they're at the it ends in the airport, and they're like kind of running away. They're like, oh no! And then he comes out of like the forest, and he's like, here, like we must rebuild. We must start society over again.
Oh, no.
Or we have this like masked SWAT team person who's just helping them through the entire thing, and then they find out at the end that like the Gremlins have overran everything, and then he reveals it's Billy, and he's like, "It's not over yet. We can take the fight to them," and then like,
oh my God,
sets it up for Gremlins 3, like World War Gremlins.
Well, technically, I think at this point we're talking about Gremlins 4.
Because
we're building off of Gremlins 2. But okay, so if we combine what you guys just said, we are creating Terminator, but with Gremlins. Billy is John Connor, and I do like that idea quite a bit.
We're gonna rebuild. Yeah. And when he's helping them, he's masked. He has these crazy inventions like his dad made, like little like contraptions to like kill gremlins. Buddy. Yeah, the bathroom buddy, but it's like a gremlin fucking murder hand pocket machine. Like
that's great. That he was developing stuff for this eventuality that gremlins would come back and be out of control, and he's also been training himself. I don't know. I love that. That's fantastic.
So do we want to? I mean, we have kind of an idea for a movie, I think.
Yeah, there's weird shit. They end up in an airport. Then Billy reveals himself, and they rebuild the world.
Yeah,
and then in there, there's that.
Gremlins stuff. Gremlins as the TSA. Gremlins going through the X-ray machine and doing funny things and going through people's suitcases.
That's great. That's so good. Or then Gremlins being, in the pilot seat or popping out of the fucking overhead bins.
Because what can happen to me? The company's trying to ship them out, but the main leader Gremlin breaks loose and frees everybody, and so then chaos ensues in the airport.
Do the sleeper cell Gremlins? So the idea is that they don't. In the end, we just see kind of like a montage of the whole world of like everyone had one, and the eggs are all hatching, maybe. Yeah,
or montage of them like maybe just causing like gremlins in Tokyo, gremlins in New York.
So what if our act 2 is kind of the gremlins get more or less stopped at the airport, and our act 3 is Clamp is trying to like sabotage and help the gremlins get through because he wants a world of gremlins, and it seems like it's stopped, but then the end of our movie is, oh, what's that? One of the gremlins, or like a couple of the gremlins, made it on various planes, and then we just have like a like one of those scenes in a pandemic movie where it's just like lines across the map of them spreading.
I definitely like the lines across a map with them spreading.
And that's just kind of how our movie ends, with like the news clip of that, them, whatever his name is, Pete or whatever, Corey Feldman, watching that, and then like having this oh no moment, and then the reveal of Billy of let's finish this fight.
Let's rebuild.
God damn it. Yeah,
I have every time Billy reveals himself and says his like one-liner, I have the theme song from Pacific Rim in my head of da 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 da, and then just smash credits.
It's good. It is hilarious too. I like it kind of being a weird satire of these large scale like end of the world blockbusters where maybe the intention isn't to make a sequel, like it isn't a cliffhanger where the idea is like, oh my god, what happens next? It's more like, what? That's ridiculous. Like it's a joke.
And then like 20 years later we'll come back and do the
they'll do it. World War Gremlins.
So I think we kind of rounded it out there. I mean, it's Gremlins. It makes itself, right?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get into casting then.
Okay.
Because I have some people.
Yeah, I got
Mine doesn't really work out because they're all supposed to be kids, and even Pete's going to be kind of old at this point. So my recasting of Billy was what's the dude from Baby Driver?
Ansel
Elgort.
Yeah,
I don't know. I thought he'd be a good Billy. He's a little maybe too handsome for a
he
Billy.
might be an okay Pete, or what is Corey Feldman's character?
Pete.
Yeah, but he's going to be pretty old if we do. Well, if we do it in the 90s.
Yeah, he won't be that old.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we're okay. So you have Ansel Elgort for Pete.
Yeah, I guess now Pete because we can't do Billy.
I obviously originally had Shia LaBeouf as Pete, and that was my whole thing was going to be hinged on that. It's going to be like the Transformers factor of like, oh, Shia LaBeouf's return to blockbuster filmmaking, but that is not the case. I'm striking that from the record.
I mean, I like that if.
My replacement, I have two people in mind. One is Andrew Garfield from the Amazing Spider-Man series, because I think he's a similar like 80s throwback kind of guy. And then the other one is Joe Keery, who plays Steve Harrington on Stranger Things, and it's because he has hair that looks like Andrew Garfield's.
Yeah,
I like that hair
him a lot.
and it's not just because he's from Stranger Things.
So we like Steve Harrington as Pete?
Yeah. I like.
Or I'm sorry, his name is Joe Keery.
Joe Keery.
Yeah. I'm just going to throw out that this is who I had cast as the son. And so maybe he could be considered as well. Chandler Riggs, Carl from Walking Dead.
Oh.
I like yours more though, I think.
I just like the age, I think, a little bit more of Joe Keery, but Chandler Riggs.
I think
feel like
Chandler Riggs is a little too young.
Yeah, has he done anything major outside of The Walking Dead?
I don't think so. Like I questioned if he is a bad actor because he's not in anything other than The Walking Dead.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if this dude kind of I guess came into a little bit more than most child actors. I don't know. I always thought he was good on that show.
So let's go ahead and then talk about. Do we want to talk? Are we recasting Randall Peltzer at all? Billy's parents in this?
Ooh, is that guy alive?
No, I don't think.
I don't know, but I have a person that I want to recast, so I'm just gonna say it.
Okay.
I really like the energy of Kevin James for that part, because he's like this dad. No, but not Kevin James like doing Paul Blart. Kevin James being like a father figure, because I feel like he has that like that same energy of like I want to impress my kid, but also I'm myself am a failure. So like I'm a loser, but I don't want anybody to. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense? And he's got like this gravitas, like big personality, kind of like that actor seemed to have. But obviously we don't. No, I can feel that you guys hate Kevin James for this movie.
I don't hate him necessarily, but I did click on this guy who played Randall Peltzer on Wikipedia, and I'm learning that he was like a folk singer, and that makes a lot of sense with his vibe. Like he's got this really like deep voice and kind of like this calm thing, which Kevin James does kind of have. But I don't know. I mean, I don't have a recasting of this character, so I have no reason to not.
No, I don't think
Kevin
we
James.
need it. I was really excited.
I don't even know if we can get him in there.
I was just really excited about Kevin James being Randall Peltzer.
What about Pete's girlfriend? The flight attendant, Kira, as I called her.
Yes. Well,
I didn't cast. I didn't really cast her even in my movie, so.
I don't know why this is popping up in my mind right away, but even the characterization. Have you guys seen the new Spider-Man movies?
Yeah.
With like the Tom Holland ones. Mary Jane or MJ is played by Zendaya.
Yeah.
I'm picturing her, like even the attitude that she has in those movies as this pilot character for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know if the age is right.
I was thinking, since we're doing what's the guy's name again from Stranger Things?
Joe Keery.
I was thinking just the girl, the sister from
Maya
Stranger
Hawke.
Things.
No, Nancy Dyer, I
Nancy
think.
Yeah.
Pelosi.
Nancy
As
Pelosi.
this girl who wants to be a pilot who's not taken seriously, because she definitely I feel like would fit that role. But I don't just want to recast the cast of Stranger Things in our movie.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be a please make this movie casting session if we didn't have someone from Stranger Things in it.
If we didn't
Yeah,
struggle to come up with
yeah. What
with
about
relevant actors that
for
were
Randall
young.
Peltzer? We have oh my god, the guy Hopper.
I know. Yeah.
What's his David Harbour?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
No,
like that guy. All right.
what's his name would be a better Sam Wise would be a better Randall Peltzer.
Oh my god,
He's
that's
also from
actually
Stranger
I'd
Things.
like that a lot.
I can't remember his name. What's that
Sean
guy's
Astin.
name? Sean Astin. Yeah, he would be a good Randall Peltzer
Yeah.
actually.
Oh,
But
that's
we
great.
don't need Randall Peltzer in this movie. So let's get into. No, I like Zendaya for that role. Let's get into Billy,
Yeah.
because I mean, I guess we don't really have Billy other than the reveal at the end.
Yeah, it's hard to not say Zach Galligan from the original movies, but like at the same time, I feel like he needs to get recast.
I think so too, because then that reveal is actually good and you understand it instead of just weird. Like, I have people cast, but if there was a reveal that they're Billy, no one would understand that.
Yeah, the reveal wouldn't make sense if it wasn't Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Do you guys have a recast for Billy?
So I do. I have two people. Either Adam Brody or Zachary Levi or Zachary Levy. I'm not sure how that.
Nice.
The guy that played Shazam. Where I think he was in Chuck too.
Yeah.
Either one of them, I think, kind of fits that vibe, but I don't think the reveal of action hero Billy Peltzer makes sense with a new actor.
If you set it up, like if when you see him, you know, it's like a moment where you see like the reaction of the person seeing him and they're like, oh, Billy or something like that. And then it cuts to him. He's like, it's not over yet. I feel like it would work.
Yeah, probably.
And you'd see the fake out where he dies at the beginning. So you'd already have seen the actor portraying the new version of him, if only for a second. I don't know. I like Zachary Levi. I don't know if he's old enough, but I do like him.
All right. So
I didn't recast him. I had Zach Galligan.
I'm fine with Zach, but I mean, I do agree it probably wouldn't be the best, but would also just be I think it'd be kind of funny to have him.
As a weird little thing, I think it would be fun to in some. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just agreeing with it. I think we just keep the original Billy.
Okay. Yeah. So Zach Galligan is Billy, but I do think it'd be fun to have some weird cameos. Specifically, Jonathan Banks, who plays Mike in Breaking Bad, is one of the two cops in Gremlins.
Yeah.
And I remember, I've seen this movie like a million times, and I remembered the lines and the way he said them. But this last rewatch before we did this podcast was the first time that I was like, oh my God, that's Mike, but 30 years younger. And it so clearly is him. And it's weird to have that like association of like, I knew the lines, I could hear them in my head, but all of a sudden I'm seeing the guy, the man behind it. I mean, it isn't that good. It's just kind of whatever, but I don't know. I thought that was crazy. He kind of looks exactly the same, just with black hair instead of no hair.
Oh yeah, I've had some pretty good Mike cameos. I saw him in a Star Trek episode, and I was like, "Ah, man!"
Tower control guy or something. That's just like, oh, what do you? Or like he's the security guard at the airport.
He could be a TSA guard,
and it could even.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the head of the TSA. So are we just going to have the evil businessman that's trying to send out the Gremlins be Clamp then?
Yeah, I think it should be Clamp, but like he's partially gremlin, so it doesn't have to be that actor. but I think it should be some sort of prominent comedic actor. Like I think of Jim Carrey when I think of who I would want doing that, being like a half gremlin clamp president.
Yeah, I like that.
I think we should. I think we should just put Donald J. Trump in that role. just go for it.
Yeah,
that would bring people into the theaters, like a different kind of audience than we're probably hoping for. But
that's his.
That's his first if that's his follow-up to being president of the United States, is to be in Gremlins 3.
Oh God. I mean, I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
I mean, we can reach out to his people. Well, I'm sure.
Let's put it on Twitter. We want Trump to play Clamp in Gremlins 3.
Gremlins 3. Yeah. So this is an interesting thing that I found. Howie Mandel voiced all of the Gremlins. I think it would be a nice homage for him to take up that mantle again. I'm sure we didn't have anything planned for that, but I think that would be good for him to come back into the franchise.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It might even be worthwhile at that point to have Howie Mandel be the Clamp role if Donald Trump is, for whatever reason, unavailable.
Yeah, he doesn't. If he's too good to be in Gremlins 3,
unless it's set at Trump Tower.
Yeah, I'm down with that. Maybe get Flea. He did Donnie from Wild Thornberrys, so I think he might have.
I would just like to see Flea in general show up in a movie like this. Like, I guess as him at the airport, he's trying to get on a plane. Like, hey guys, I got to get back to LA. We've got a show. And there's Gremlins popping out of a suitcase playing the bass.
There's definitely gonna be a dumbass cameo like that.
Yeah,
for sure.
We need to just shock it block full of people who are super relevant in the 90s, like Alfonso Ribeiro, just like anybody that had.
I got a perfect cameo.
Go ahead.
On one of the planes in the airport is sitting William Shatner. And he looks out the window and he sees one of the Gremlins. He's like, what?
I love that. That was a great gag.
So in the Twilight Zone film, there's a sequence with John Lithgow that's a remake of that scene from the original Twilight Zone. I'm trying to think of a way to make that like a 3, like build upon that joke where it hits 3 times, but have the first one be Shatner like, oh, there's something on the wing, and then it cuts to another plane and it's John Lithgow and he's like, oh my God, there's something out there. And then it cuts to another guy,
Mark Wahlberg, who saves the plane from Gremlins because they believe him.
Well, you could just start it out with like a regular Joe Schmo season. Then it's John Lithgow, and then it's William Shatner or something like that.
Oh man, that's a really funny joke. I'm surprised no one has tried to get both of them to do that exact joke in a movie yet.
Yeah. Oh man.
So do we have? I mean, we're open to we're at an airport, so we can just throw as many cameos of people, just as.
That's a good idea.
Random. Yeah.
Just tons of airport cameos in these little vignettes.
Yeah. So do we have anything else casting-wise we need to fill? Or can we go ahead and set a title for this, which I think we've already done?
Yeah, I don't have anything else as far as casting. Title-wise, I like the one I came up with, but I had Gremlins World Tour, but I think we might have a better one in there.
Oh, I like Gremlins
World Tour, World War Gremlins.
World War G?
Yeah, but like the full name. Like Gremlins World Tour, World War Gremlins.
That's just a lot.
Oh my God.
Super complicated. Gremlins World Tour, World War Gremlins.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's outrageous, but I like it.
Well, the movie's dumb as shit anyway, so it's,
I'm picturing this, like the moment in the theater where he takes where it's Billy, and he takes the SWAT team mask off. When I saw The Dark Knight, people cheered when Gary Oldman took that SWAT team mask off, and is like, "Oh, I'm not out of the count yet, kid. We're still in it." And but if it's that shit, but it's Billy Peltzer.
But it's Billy. It's
the crowd literally cheering
on your left, but it is Billy Peltzer.
That's stupid, but I love it.
People in the theater giving a standing ovation to Billy Peltzer. All right, so Gremlins World Tour, World War. God, I can't even make it through the entire title. Like, even if you move it down to just letters, it would be.
Well, you cut out there for a second.
So I can't even say the entire title without laughing. Yeah. Like, even if you're talking in letters, it's like GWTWWG. Like, it is super convoluted, but I love it. Gremlins World Tour, World War Gremlins. It's like so hard to say. It's such a mouthful.
It's so dumb.
Hey,
that's it.
I mean, please make this movie.
Yeah, please make this movie.
William Shatner, please make this movie.